Donk, Donk, Donk,
I actually saw this meme that was like a chart of the Harry Potter books, and it was like the first one was like nice start to the franchise, and then the second and third ones like getting a little bit darker, and then all of the rest of them were like everybody's dead.
Yeah, fuck. I know, this is really where it all like kicks off, eh?
Yeah, it's like where you like see the scope of the kind of overall arc of the books or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I guess in the third one, it's still kind of like about the past.
Yeah. Mainly, eh? And it's also like, you know, because the third one doesn't have Voldemort. It's kind of like self-contained and like just not so like grim or like foreboding, you know?
Yeah, and even like before, I mean, obviously Voldemort comes back at the end of the fourth one, but even though he's not back yet, it's kind of like, yeah, foreboding like the whole time with all that stuff at like at the beginning with the Death Eaters at the Quidditch World Cup and shit.
Yeah, when it starts with that, you know, Harry has that dream in the Riddle house.
Right.
And it's the first time his scar has hurt outside of like being physically close to Voldemort. And he's like, what the fuck is going on, you know?
Yeah. And so I guess Voldemort is actually kind of back, or we get like a kind of sense that he's back at the beginning.
Yeah, well, he's like, he is back, kind of, you know, he just doesn't have a body yet. You know, like in the second and third ones, after what happens at the end of the first one, he's not like back in the world. You know, like the second one is a Horcrux. So it's not current day Voldemort. And then the third one, he's not there. And then this one, like, there's like new information and happenings in the current time happening.
Happen. So what happens at the beginning? He pretty much goes to the Weasleys they come to get him. Or is that the fifth one?
No, I think that is this one. I think there's a chapter called The Invitation. I think this is when Mr. Weasley comes to their house and tries to come out of the fireplace.
Yeah.
Explodes their whole room. It's so good.
But also, like, he could have apparated outside of the fireplace and done it in a kind of cleaner manner. But he just decided to, like, blow it up.
I know, he decides to get their fireplace hooked up to the Flu network for one night. And it's like, that seems like wholly unnecessary. Just like, yeah, apparate. Or like near the house, you know, somewhere subtle, and then walk up to the door like a normal person.
Yeah, they hadn't really brought apparating into the story. It kind of comes in the fourth one, right? Because Percy's doing it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think it's like it has happened, but it hasn't really like been. It becomes a way more major thing like from the fourth one.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he goes to the Burrow and hangs out for a bit.
Yeah.
And
which is always nice.
Yeah, that's always fun. And this is when Weasley's Wizard Wheezes starts as well, which is fun.
Yeah.
That's just so good. The twins are such good characters.
I know it sucks that is it Fred that dies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What that's brutal way.
I
Oh
found that it's really unnecessary, I thought. Like it's like, come on, like you're just like making it tragic.
yeah, totally. And it's just after like Percy's just come back
Yeah.
and is like, oh, my family have been such a cunt, you know, like I'm so sorry. And then they're fighting together and he dies, and it's just like, no.
You know,
Yeah.
Percy should join Weasley Wizards Wheezes in his place.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Someone should. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about today. But first port key.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weirdly like a major form of wizard transport, which is like turning random objects into teleportation devices.
Yeah, it's quite weird, eh? I guess
Yeah.
it's for people who don't want to apparate or whatever.
And people who can't.
Yeah.
And moving as a group.
Yeah. But I don't know. This is not so much about Thor, but like in the beginning of the sixth book, Dumbledore takes Harry for side-along apparition. Like, why isn't that used more often? You know? Like, I feel like in the books until that point, it's always like, oh, I can't go by apparition because I can't apparate. But they're like with an adult or something. And it's like, well, can't you?
It might be risky.
I don't know, because then in the seventh one as well, Dobby just like apparates, you know, he takes Ollivander and Luna out of that dungeon together. So it's obviously not that you can only side along apparate one person.
No, but I think house elf magic is supposed to be a bit more dank than human magic.
Well, yeah, it really seems like every time the house elves do magic, it's like, it seems like your magic is better. Or I guess like, maybe not better, but in the like blind spot of wizards protecting spells or something. So it's like,
Yeah, it
what?
seems to be like beneath the rules of human magic, which kind of makes sense because like in a normal, like in a regular kind of philosophical, psychological sense, like human consciousness is like amazing and potent and whatever, but it's also kind of like its own limitation. Like it's like because we're
Yeah.
so like aware of things, we're like fuck up the natural rhythm of it or whatever, and like kind of can't access the deep stuff.
Well, like, yeah, like the hubris of thinking that you know everything, you
Yeah.
know? So then, of course, something's gonna get through.
And systematizing shit so that it's like got boundaries, like specific boundaries and shit. But it's implied that like goblin magic is like danker too, and like they don't need a wand to do it and blah blah blah.
Yeah, well, neither do house elves. They don't have
Yeah.
wands. They're like not allowed wands.
No one's allowed wands except humans. That's one of the like very political things that comes up.
Yeah. All the shit about spew is really good. And that's why I remembered loving this book. Like in remembering back to reading them, I thought this was my favorite one. And I think that's a huge part of it because it's like so, you know, like I guess it becomes relevant to the plot. Like, or like some of the stuff about how you treat elves. You know, like in the seventh book, Hermione is like, you know, Sirius kind of caused his own death by treating creatures so badly and shit. So it's like kind of important later. But it's so like not integral to the plot, you know, and really just like builds the characters. Like there's so much more depth in them because Hermione's like, yeah, like the Triwizard Tournament's important and I'll help you with that, but also I want to liberate house elves. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, well, I think it's building like quite an important part of her character too, that she's like got this real political edge, which actually started in the third one with her helping Hagrid with the trial.
Yeah, she's got like a real strong sense of like justice and like
Yeah.
right and wrong that is, you know, like she's kind of portrayed so often as like a real like rule follower. And
Yeah.
it's like kind of true, but also I think more importantly is like her own moral compass, you know?
Mm,
Like in the fifth one and stuff, when she's like happy to break all the school rules because she's like, it's more important that we get proper education,
mm.
which is cool.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if Hermione is like the character in Harry Potter that represents J.K. Rowling.
Right.
Because like I kind of get that vibe. Also, don't you kind of think that like Hermione's a little bit similar to Mrs. Weasley?
Yeah, I guess so. I thought you were gonna say McGonagall, lol.
Oh well, yeah. That was one of the things I kind of wanted to talk about when we mentioned like the gender thing the other day. Like there's like this real like naggy woman kind of stereotype that comes up quite a lot. And it's like, do we need that, bro? Like it's kind of lame.
Yeah. Yeah, all the women characters, or like a lot of the main women, are quite like, I guess, like similar in those ways, you know?
Yeah, and actually a lot of the men are quite like beta male, like passive kind of men as well. Like, there's no real like strong male figures.
Yeah, definitely. And like, particularly Ron, you know, like I was thinking about how, like, in the seventh one, you know, he spouts all that shit about, you know, like when they're talking to Griphook about stuff, and he's like, yeah, well, like you guys can't have wands because this and this and this. Like he really just like repeats the rhetoric of the wizarding world that he's like, I guess, been like indoctrinated into. But then
Mm.
it's like a huge moment later in the book when he's like that when they're all at Hogwarts and he's like, what about the house elves? We
Yeah,
need
and
to get them
Hermione
out.
passes him.
Yeah. And it's like, fuck this guy. Like no, like I don't know, there's no like doesn't feel like character development. It feels like, you know, he read that book about what women want, and then he's like, oh, Hermione really cares about like other magical beings.
Yeah, you notice him like complimenting Hermione kind of like unnaturally throughout the whole book.
Yeah, it's so funny. And there's that bit where Harry compliments Mrs. Weasley and Ron like gives him a look and like winks at him or something and is like, nice, bro. It's like such a weird little bit to write in, eh?
Yeah, because it's kind of like condoning this real like as if like romance is systematizable, you know, like as if like women all want the same thing and men all
Yeah.
want the same thing.
Yeah, and it's like the game, you know?
Yeah.
Like you just gotta tick these boxes and then you'll like get the woman.
The game for wizards.
Yeah. But also like one of those weird things where it's like, I don't know, everybody likes being complimented. That's not just like a thing about women, you know? Like if you praise people, I don't know.
Also, it's not really about praising people so much as like being aware of their positive points that's important, you know.
Yeah.
Wrong. Anyway, back to the
Wrong.
fourth one. Yeah, I remember being so like dazzled by the like Quidditch Cup thing. Like I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like big wizarding event. It's kind of like a huge like expansion of the wizarding world and shit.
Yeah, and like just interesting stuff about like seeing how they operate like a big wizarding event like that, you know? Like they
Mm.
have it in a muggle area.
Yeah, which is weird. I mean, but also I guess it's partly about showing the like boundaries between the wizarding world and the muggle world, which is kind of like world building.
Yeah. And I think part of that is probably just to allow the muggles to be nearby for when like the Death Eaters come, you know how they like make them float above, and it's like, oh, they hate muggles so much.
Yeah, but like there are like larger areas that are like inaccessible to muggles, like Hogwarts and shit, which I guess is a secret location, so they can't use it. But there must be like, or slash like, why are there not an area, like areas big enough for wizards to like occupy and like utilize for like an event and shit? If they're gonna have, they must have the event every year, or is it every few years?
I think it must be every few years, because at the end of the third one, Ron's like, oh, the Quidditch World Cup is next year or next summer or whatever. You should come.
But maybe it's just that it's in England that summer.
I guess so.
Dunno.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
But yeah, there must be places to do stuff like that, because the Quidditch World Cup can't be the only like magical gathering that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, are there any other wizarding sports?
No. There is a like board game sort of thing that's mentioned occasionally. I can't remember what it's called.
Gobstones?
Yeah, that one.
Isn't that like that's not a board game, is it?
I don't know. What is it then?
I think it's like a more like a, what's that one we have to ping the counters and shit?
Yeah.
I don't know,
That
something
one.
like that. Something like between that and like petanque or something.
It just sounds like you just like put stones in your mouth, you know?
Yeah. There's a bit in the fifth one where they ban all the clubs, and then like the Gobstones club has to like reapply.
Yeah, well, like I'm pretty sure, you know, when Hermione finds out that that Prince woman is Snape's mum, or like she finds her and she's like, she was in the Gobstones club or whatever. Yeah, I don't think there's any other sports though. They just weren't relevant to the plot, so who cares?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had actually forgotten quite a lot about this one too. And so when I was reading it, I was like figuring it out in my head and shit. But all that stuff about like the Winky like being up in the stands by herself, and like
Yes.
then the wand being gone, and like that shit's all constructed quite well, eh?
Yeah. I was the same. Like I remember when I was reading that bit where Winky's just sitting there waiting for Crouch, I was like, there's something weird going on here, but I can't remember what it is. And then like all the stuff about Barty Crouch Jr. and like his mum and stuff like that, you know, like her replacing him at Azkaban and shit. I was like, yeah, fuck, something's up. Don't know what it is though. Wait, it's so weird. I had like not really thought about that. We just don't know Moody at all, you know, like because he's not in this book, or like there's a scene with him at the end or whatever. But like, there's only a few instances where they actually meet him and then he dies.
Well, Barty Crouch Jr. is like imitating his personality though, and they said that part of the reason he keeps him in the chest is so that he can like pick up his like tics and like his mannerisms and shit. But yeah, but Harry comments on that in like the fifth one, I think, where he goes to the Order, and then he's like, oh, he like feels a bit weird being around Moody because he like thought he knew him, and then he turned out he was trying to kill him.
Yeah, lol. But even if he's doing like an incredibly good imitation and is like really close to Moody, then they like, we know Moody and they all know Moody, but Moody doesn't know anything about them.
True.
He's like, hey guys.
Well, he knows Harry Potter.
Yeah.
About
by,
Harry
like,
Potter.
reputation. Yeah. Okay, so my like question about that I've been holding on to is it's like a whole thing. You know, when Harry's caught out of bed and he gets his foot stuck in the disappearing step.
Yeah.
And Moody can see through his cloak. And then in the 7th book, they make this whole huge big deal about how his is the only true invisibility cloak and it's impenetrable and it doesn't age. How the fuck can Moody see through it?
His eyes magic is more powerful than the legendary object.
Than Death's own cloak.
But I think Dumbledore could see through it too.
Can he?
Well, it's implied in the first one that, like, when he catches Harry in the looking in the mirror.
What?
The mirror of Erised.
I know what mirror.
It's like implied that he can see Harry even though he was wearing the invisibility cloak, and he kind of knew that he was going to be there as well.
I thought he'd just like seen him there, because Harry takes off the cloak when he goes in that room.
Yeah, that too. But I don't know.
Anyway,
you're asking the wrong guy.
I know. That just seemed like an oversight, you know?
Sure. Also, like, I thought it was supposed to, like, they kind of imply in the 7th one that it deflects spells as well, but there's a bunch of times that he gets, like, stunned under it and, like, whatever.
Yeah, like Dumbledore freezes him.
Yeah. I don't know. But also, like, they also... Yeah, nah, whatever. Let's save that for the 7th one. Yeah, like, almost everything about this book is political too, eh? Like, all the stuff, like, all the little hints that happen in the Quidditch World Cup, and then, like, all the stuff about the Triwizard Tournament is political too, because, like, it's about the relationships between the schools and the countries, and, like, they're all kind of, like, there to make friends, but then, like, kind of also to, like, scope each other out, and, like, you know, kind of, like, almost, like, especially the other schools, though, which is, like, pretty biased, but, like, they all kind of a bit more, like, suspicious. It's like they might be trying to, like, find shit out, or, like, I don't know.
When they accuse Hogwarts of cheating, you know, they're like, you just wanted 2 champions. You guys are dick.
As if Dumbledore's the guy to care about that shit.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, this one's way more about, like, I guess, like, the Ministry of Magic, but then more broadly, like, the magical world beyond that, you know? Oi, it's so stupid that in the movies, you know, like, they make Beauxbatons a girls' school.
Yeah.
Because they're, like, French and pretty. And then they make Durmstrang a boys' school because they're, like, tough and mean. It's like... Also, like, then where do all the French boys go? And all the, like, Russian girls?
Yeah, they go to each other's schools. They have to travel by Portkey.
So stupid.
Also, it's kind of, like, implied that Portkeys are, like, regulated, like, you have to apply to create them and shit. But then, like, Dumbledore's just, like, creating them willy-nilly.
I think what I got from it is that they can be, like, organized, like, for public use, but I didn't think they were, like, regulated until the 5th book, when there was, like, way more crackdown on shit going on at Hogwarts and stuff. And it was like, you're not allowed to make portkeys or, like, use the Floo network because it's all being monitored.
I kind of got the vibe that they were regulated anyway, but then they were, like, leveraging that a lot more to control people or something.
Maybe.
Because, like, all the ones for the Quidditch World Cup had to be, like, at specific times and places.
I think that was more like an organizational thing. They even say that, don't they? That they're like staggered through time so that like you don't just have a bunch of wizards turning up out of nowhere at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, to me that suggested that if it's for something like the World Cup where there's like tens or hundreds of thousands of people, you can't just like make a portkey and rock up with your family. But if you were like going to some other country to do something with your family, you can just like make one.
Yeah, but there's like a apparition zone where you can just like apparate to, which seems like quite dangerous as well.
Yeah, just like apparate inside of someone else.
I thought like all the like little hints about Barty Crouch and shit were like really well done as well, and like about like everything that was kind of gonna happen at the end, but the Barty Crouch stuff in particular, and also the fact that like Moody is like a paranoid character anyway, and like he's got all those devices and shit, and they're like, you know, that mirror that shows your enemies, and it's like got all these shadows moving through it all the time, and you just assume that that's kind of like because he's an aura or like whatever. And like there's like, but they're far away, but it's actually kind of like all the teachers at the school or something, you know?
Yeah, because there's a bit where Harry's like looking in it, and I was like, oh fuck, like that'll be, you know, all the teachers at Hogwarts. And it's like, or he couldn't make out who they are because it's like all foggy and stuff. But yeah, it's the perfect like disguise, eh? Because even like, you know, like Karkaroff hates him real Moody.
Yeah, because he caught him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this like you see all the stuff, the court stuff, like the court proceedings with like Bellatrix, right? And like Barty Crouch Jr.
Yeah. Yeah, this is where we first see the pensive thing as well.
Yeah. Which is cool.
Which ends up being like a key kind of like plot device over the rest of the books.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of thought, you know, like right at the end, and Dumbledore's forcing Harry to tell him everything that happened. I was like, oh, it's so cruel. Can't you just like pensive him?
True. You know? He doesn't know how to do the memory thing though, I don't think.
Just do it to him.
Well, yeah, everyone says that he's like a real weak Occlumens or whatever.
Yeah, but I think that's like proven to be false even in itself in the seventh one. It's just that he like wasn't trying at all.
Yeah, so like this is where it starts to be like so much about the other stuff and like the political stuff and the dark stuff that it becomes like less about the school stuff and like the characters and shit.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff in this one that makes Hogwarts really fun. I mean, that isn't in this one. You know, like Quidditch is cancelled for the whole year. So there's none of that fun, like, oh, let's fuck up Malfoy. I hate him.
There's actually fuck all Quidditch for the whole rest of the series, eh? She kind of like, it's like maybe she got sick of it or something, but he keeps getting kicked out of it. He's not in the last two finals, I don't think. Oh, no, maybe he's in the fifth one.
No, he gets into him and one of the twins get into a fight with Malfoy.
Yeah, and he gets
Malfoy
banned.
Is being a cunt, and they get banned for life.
But then he's like, they forgot about that, and he's the captain in the next book.
Yeah.
But then he's not in that one either because he has detention.
In the sixth one.
Yeah, he has detention for the final.
Well, so in the sixth one, he gets knocked out by McLagan, and he's out for a game as well.
Oh yeah.
And they lose. Yeah, I feel like she got bored of writing the like what happens in every game, you know?
Yeah, I
Or
mean, she didn't have to write all the details. She could have just been like, they won.
Harry felt so good after they'd won the game. I think this is also like when you get introduced to the unforgivable curses.
Yeah. But we kind of
Um,
had hints of them, like the mysterious green flash of light in Harry's memory and shit.
yeah, I guess it's more the other two, right? Or maybe it's mentioned that heaps of people like claimed they were under the Imperious curse.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah, the competition itself, I guess, was like a good device for like showing a whole range of things, like Harry figuring out all the problems and like, I don't know, like showing new stuff about Harry's character. Like it emphasizes the like fact that he's good at flying more and that he's good at like kind of defense against the dark arts / thinking on the spot and like being resourceful and shit.
Yeah, when he's way more like, you know, like he gets help from heaps of people, but he's like alone in the tasks way more. And there's the whole thing where Ron isn't talking to him for like ages. And he's like also like a social outcast because all of Hogwarts is like, you dick.
Yeah. It's annoying though. Like there's heaps of moments like that where like everyone's angry at Harry or like whatever for some like unfair reason. But it's like no one thinks to make it clear that it's unfair. Like Dumbledore could have been like, look, we don't know how this happened, but it should have been like it would have been really hard for him to get his name in there. Like obviously he didn't do it. Let's all like have some support for Harry, you know?
I know, and he like he makes that defense to the other, you know, like the other headmasters and mistress.
Yeah.
And he's like, you'd have to be an incredibly powerful wizard to get through. But yeah, he doesn't make any effort to like shield Harry or like change how everyone's treating him, you know? Like, yeah, he could have explained to the whole school. And also, I guess in the fifth one, Harry's like, why does everybody not believe me and think I'm insane and hate me? And Hermione's like, you've got to see it from our point of view, which is that a student died and you came back holding his body. And then Dumbledore made like no real speech. He just was like, Voldemort's back. And everyone then went home for 2 months. And that's all. It's like, yeah, he doesn't really make an effort to like explain anything to the rest of the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Skipping forward a bit, it's really cute when they're all allowed to have their family come visit and Harry like doesn't go because he's like, the Dursleys aren't gonna come. And then the McGonagall who's like, what are you doing? Like, the Weasleys are here for you. It's so cute.
The Dursleys should have come, bro.
That would have been so funny, eh? But he like takes them for a walk through the grounds and stuff. Oh, really sweet.
Oh yeah.
This is
you go.
You know, all the Rita Skeeter stuff is happening in this one.
Right, man, that stuff fucked me off.
Oh, it's fucking infuriating, eh? This one as well. I did remember that she's an animagus through this whole book. So
Yeah.
everything that happened, I was like, oh my God, that bitch. You know, like when they get out of the lake, there's like a beetle in Hermione's hair. And Crumb is like, there's a beetle in your hair. And takes that out. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and like Harry's like, oh, he's just trying to get Hermione's attention.
And there's like the bit where they're in, when he like has a fucking episode in divination, and he's like, oh, I could hear a bug buzzing behind the curtain. And it's like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
and he's looking at a beetle when they're watching Hagrid and Madam
Maxine.
whatever. Yeah, Maxine. Most obvious name ever. Talking about being giants, and she's like all offended and shit, and then it's like turns out that she was a giant anyway.
It's so funny. It's like, I'm big boned.
Yeah, really big. Also, big bone means big fucking dinosaur bones. Yeah, but that's like another opportunity for like the kind of race discourse and shit, like the stuff, the discrimination against giants and shit. Oh yeah, that Rita Skeeter like goes out of her way to exacerbate.
Yeah, that's another one of those things where Harry's like so clueless, you know? Like he reads the article and he's like, okay. And everyone else is like, oh my God. But also it's like, what the fuck? I guess it says that some of them thought he like Hagrid had like a spell gone wrong or something. But it's like, I don't know.
No, he's just big boned.
Really.
But also they all know Hagrid. So like, you know, everyone knows him and no one's ever had any dangerous kind of like shit from him directly, apart from him like being obsessed with dangerous animals. Lol.
Yeah.
Which is like, I quite like that recurring theme. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
When the spiders like come in the Battle of Hogwarts and he's like, no, don't hurt them.
It's like, bro,
and then they carry him off.
Oh, so sad. It's just like a classic gentle giant character.
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah, the Rita Skeeter thing, like the fact that she's like gets all in with the Slytherins and they're like going out of their way to make it worse, it's just like,
yeah, it's so frustrating, eh? When she comes to like, oh, maybe I'm mixing her up with Umbridge, but like all the stuff with Hagrid, and they're like, no, he's so scary, the Slytherins. Like, we hate him, everybody hates him, he's terrible. It's like, fuck, bro.
Yeah, and then like, and they also giving out stories about like Hermione and like Harry's scar and fainting and like all this shit, and then it becomes all that shit about Harry being unstable, which is kind of funny actually, because it's like he probably should be like quite a bit more unstable mentally, you know, like.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also like, I don't know, it's so insane to think that she's like really attacking this 14-year-old child. She's like, he's fucking insane to the whole world. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, I bet that's kind of her. She attacks everyone, really.
I know, but at least with the adults, it's like, okay, they're adults. Who cares?
I guess this is what builds up all the Cho Chang stuff too. I think she was introduced in the third one though, through Quidditch.
Yeah, because she's the Ravenclaw Seeker. So
yeah,
I think
and she's very pretty.
Like, oh, she's so pretty. Look at her long, shiny hair. She's so pretty.
She smiled at Harry.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
It's really cute.
I feel like it's cute in this one. I felt like it was awkward and hard to read the stuff where like they go on a date in the fifth one.
Yeah, and then
you
she's
know?
kind of like inexplicably becomes like an unstable bitch, like this like unstable like woman character. And then like Hermione's like justifying it and explaining all this stuff about girls, about how like she's doing this to like make you jealous and all this shit as if it's like good or like acceptable. And it's
I
like,
know.
I don't know, that's like another one of those things where it's like, I don't think that applies to girls as a whole. It's like a negative behavior that probably a lot of people could do.
Yeah, and it's just so like tropey and cliche, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's so emotional. She can't control her emotions. She just cries all the time. And it's like, all right, like, sorry that you can't cry after all the trauma that has happened in your life, bro. That's not her failing, you know?
Yeah. Later on, there's a bit where he's like, Ginny didn't even cry. That was the one of the things he really liked about Ginny is she didn't like cry at the drop of a hat. It's like fucking hell.
It's so fucked, eh?
Yeah.
It's like just you might as well at that point just say unlike that fucking crybaby Cho, you know? Oh, nah, Cho's cool in this one. And it's cute, like, having that kind of normal shit going on where he's like so nervous to ask her to the Yule Ball and it takes him ages and he keeps saying no to all these other people without like thinking about it. That is really sweet.
Yeah, and the tension or like the fact that she ends up going with Cedric and like then there's that whole kind of like triangle going on is like quite effective too, I think. Or like useful. It's like a good plot device or whatever.
Yeah.
And realistic.
Yeah. That's cute.
Oh yeah, do you reckon Crumb and Hermione fuck? I think yes.
I think so.
I reckon they totally go there. He's like a bit older than her, and I reckon she's down. Like she's just like she's like bookish on the surface, but then in the background, she's got a lot of like relationship advice and shit. And she's like precocious.
When she goes to like visit him in where is he from? Bulgaria?
I don't think so.
Oh well, I think so. He invites.
He invites her.
I just assumed she went and then didn't talk to anyone about it. She's like, don't kiss and tell.
But there's that bit where she's like, yeah, he was watching me in the library. He mostly just comes to hang out with me in the library. He doesn't really study that much though. He's more physical.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, but this begs the question, like, where do high school kids fuck in Hogwarts? Because like they can't really go to each other's, well, they can't fuck in the common room, obviously, but they can't go to each other's dormitories. They can go to the boys' dormitory, but then that's still like a shared dormitory.
Yeah. I don't know. The room of requirement.
True. Or like Myrtle's toilet or something. While we're on this subject, we'll just get it out of the way all at once. But like Hagrid's so Hagrid's a half giant and like his dad's like a little man and his mum's like a giant. And it's like, all right, that kind of works. And then he's like asking Madame Maxine, like, so how about you? Is it your mum or is it your dad? It couldn't be your dad. There's no way.
No, because like I don't know how they would fuck, but even if he did impregnate her, like having a half
baby
like rip you apart.
It'd be great for a giant having a half human baby. That would be
easy.
Yeah.
It just pulls out.
Yeah, it's like a period or something.
Hold on, I need to go to the toilet, but also the neighbor has just started mowing, so it's really loud. So I just want to close my window.
Can't really hear it.
Well, I can.
I pause the thing.
Recording.
Okay, that's enough about that. Um, yeah, but it's still good. But the ending is sad. Before I reread the books, I was like trying to get that fix out of the movies, which I didn't. But I cried at the end. I was like, damn, that is actually quite tragic. And it's like they finally like build up this kind of like companionship because they're both in the Harry and Cedric, because they're both in the tournament together. And then they like
Yeah.
make it to the end together and they help each other, or especially Harry helps Cedric, and then they help each other, and then they're like, okay, no, we've got to take the thing together. And like,
I know, it's so like sweet. And it's like Harry gets over his feelings of like, I hate this guy because he's dating Cho, and let's do it together. It's so sad. I cried when his like ghost sort of, you know, energy comes out of the wands, and he's like, take my body back to my parents.
yeah.
Oh, it's so sad. And it just really like, I don't know, reminded me how young they are, you know? Because like Cedric must be 17.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah, and it's so like ruthless and like wasteful, you know. It's kind of just like he's like, kill the spare, you know, and then he's just like,
Yeah,
gone.
it's awful. Yeah, that whole bit sets up like the whole rest of the series, kind of. Not the whole rest of the series, but like the end, right at the end of the 7th book.
Yeah, and there's all that stuff about the wands and shit too, which actually kind of turns out to be not so much about the wands, eh? Like it's kind of about the wands, but then it's later on, it's not about the wands.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a misdirect, you know? Voldemort's like, it's about the wands. And then there's some, you know, like there is a connection between the wands, but it's more about they've got the same soul and the same blood now.
Yeah, Dumbledore explains at the end that it's the blood that ends up protecting him, because he
Yeah.
chose to put Harry's blood in his new body. It's pretty perverted.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's one of those things that really just made me be like maybe Voldemort's obviously like a really powerful wizard, but he doesn't make any effort to understand magic, you know, or anything that isn't like useful or interesting to him. Like if he'd thought about the like protective charm or whatever that is with Harry because of his mother's sacrifice, and how that extends to like when he's with Petunia and shit as well. It's like obviously if you take his blood and you make yourself a new body with that, that's gonna like have repercussions.
Well, he's got kind of like a scientific, like a not a very spiritual approach to magic. Like he chooses to believe that that it's not true, you know, that Dumbledore's wrong, and like that the love thing like doesn't exist, and that you can just kind of like force your way through anything if you're powerful enough, which is kind of like a viable attitude for a villain, I think, because like yeah,
it's so like only seeing part of the picture of magic.
but yeah, it's like if you can like, wouldn't it be quite useful if more people knew that you could like hack magic this way with love, or with like deeper feelings, or deeper kind of like more depth, really, like a deeper kind of spirituality.
Yeah, I guess that's like it though, you know? It's not like torture people because it's too powerful. It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy. Oh yeah, like I was kind of almost impressed with like Rowling's like anti-government, anti-bureaucracy kind of like sentiment.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, eh? And it's really like pervasive. You know, like in the 7th one, when what's his name? The new Minister for Magic keeps being like, "Oh, Harry, can you endorse the ministry?" He's like, "No, I don't agree with what you're doing."
Yeah, I kind of wondered if that was a bit of a mistake too, because like, I mean, not just endorsing the ministry, but like, I feel like they could have gotten a lot further, a lot faster if they'd had a bit of help or protection or something. I would have used the opportunity, to be honest.
Yeah, or like maybe not Lupin, like Lupin offers to come with them. And I think Harry's right in being like, are you just going to abandon your unborn child?
But then he dies anyway.
I know, but who cares? But like, I feel like there could have been some more involvement from the Order. You know?
Like, there was no reason to be quite that secretive about it, I don't think. And like, I mean, who would have helped them though? I mean, Lupin could have been a good choice, to be honest. And it seemed like they were gonna, like, Ron and Hermione kind of wanted to accept the offer.
Yeah.
Oh wait, let's save that.
yeah, we don't need to talk about that now. Yeah. What else happens?
There's like, yeah. Anything important? Not really. He's allowed to go to Hogsmeade, which is quite nice.
Yeah, that's cute. All the tasks happen.
Yeah, the tasks are kind of not that interesting overall. He just like, he gets through everything so like smoothly, more or less,
Yeah, and I guess that's like explained by Moody's like trying to subtly help him.
But in the movie though, Neville gives him the gillyweed or whatever.
Yeah.
And in the book it's Dobby. Is it? Yeah.
I think in the movie it's explained because after Moody demonstrates the unforgivable curses, whatever they are.
Yeah, he gives him the book.
He gives him the book that has the gillyweed in it.
Which actually makes kind of a lot of sense.
Yes.
How does Dobby... Oh, he tells Dobby about it though anyway, right, in the book.
He makes sure that Dobby is near him when he says to another teacher, why doesn't he just use gillyweed? And Dobby's like, ooh hoo hoo. Yeah, is it this one or another book where Dumbledore just like cancels exams? He's like, don't worry about that shit.
The Triwizard participants don't have to do exams.
Nah, but there's one where like, it might be this one or it might be another one where, something big and crazy happens at the end of the school year and then they have their like a feast and Dumbledore's like, we're cancelling all exams because you guys have had a hard time. And
I don't think it's this one because the exams happen while he's preparing for the last thing or something. Isn't it like the second one or something?
I don't know. It just seems like quite irresponsible.
Also, hey, it always says that like Voldemort has this like high, clear voice.
Yes.
I can't imagine that. I can't hear it. Can you do an impression for me?
No. I always think though, like all the times in the books when it describes his like cold laugh, I just think of from the movie where he's like, hey.
Yeah, like I can't imagine what she's like referring to. Like I think it's supposed to be some kind of like trope of evil or something. Well, I don't know. Like I want to know what she's imagining really. Like is it like how high is it?
Right up there.
Like Harry Potter.
It's weird, eh? I don't know why she, I don't know, bothers describing that.
Is it supposed to be that he's like kind of like repressed and like a bit distorted or something?
Yeah, I guess I can, like, I can't think of anyone specific from like movies or something, but like kind of a high pitched, like creepy voice, you know?
But clear and cold.
I don't know what clear means.
Is it like Hannibal Lecter or something?
I don't know what he sounds like.
Oh. No, he doesn't really have a high voice either anyway. Anyway. Yeah, he's basically just a psychopath, eh?
Voldemort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just classic psychopath. American psycho. English psycho.
Like those.
Yeah. That end bit is really sad too, and he like doesn't talk to anyone about Cedric. He like won't talk to anyone about it, which I reckon is a bit bullshit too. And like, and then he has to meet his family, and he tries to give them the money, and they're like, "Oh, you should have it," and they're like real cut, and he can't say anything. Man, that was pretty sad.
Yeah. It's really awful, that whole end bit, and when he's like knowing that he has to go back to the Dursleys and just like kind of exist that life again after he's just gone through that whole thing. It's so fucked up.
Yeah, I found like Cedric's death like a lot more tragic than who's that other guy? Sirius.
Whoever he is. Really awful because it is, like you said, like it's just so pointless and like just shows how Voldemort doesn't see anyone not of use to him as anyone, you know? Like he's just there, he's not a person. But yeah, like Harry not talking about it, he's so like he's your classic like stoic guy, you know? Like there's all these instances in the books where he's like something happens or he wants to like express to someone how much something means or like how he's sorry that this is happening to them or something. And it's always like Harry wanted to say these things but he couldn't find the words and he just doesn't say anything. And it's like
he's emotionally stunted.
Yeah, totally. Which I guess like pretty fucked up. He just has such a fucked up life, eh? Like...
What kind of like she tries to make him not have a fucked up life for the first half. And then it's like kind of right at the end, then it's like, okay, it's fucked up now.
I guess so, but like, you know, he never has a normal school year.
Nah.
You know? Like,
but that's kind of like, it's like part of the fun for the first like 4 books, and even kind of part of the 5th one, but the 5th one does start to get more explicitly like dark, like with the like torture from Umbridge and like all her like real like ruthless like kind of shameless rules and like control mechanisms and shit.
Yeah. But even this one, like, you know, he's ostracized by most people at school. They won't talk to him. He's got like no friends for ages, and he keeps having these tasks where he's like, you know, he has a little while where he's like, it's fine, I've got ages to like, particularly the second task, he's like, I've got so long to figure it out, it's fine. And then he's just like sick with anxiety for ages, you know. It's just like he never really has like a chill time for very long.
Yeah, but you don't really feel the weight of it like in the way it's written, and I find that like a little bit lacking. Like there's like moments where you like feel some kind of emotion from him, but I felt like the weight of his experience could have been felt a bit more throughout the books. Because even in like the last one, or maybe the 6th one, and he's like, one by one, everyone who protected him has like died in front of him, like died between him and Voldemort or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but it's just saying that. It's not really like, it's not really making you feel it.
I think so too. And I think he seems to like when I think about, he goes back to school in the 5th one, and it's been like 2 months since he's died. And same with between the 5th and 6th ones. It's like, it's only been a few weeks since his like only kind of father figure that's alive died. And he's like just keeping on, you know? And even with all the stuff that happens in the school years, I think only in the 7th one do you really feel like the pressure of it. You know, like in the 7th one, it really feels like for the beginning bits before they run away, it kind of does really feel like they're on the brink of it, and everyone's kind of like ready and waiting for it to happen, you know? But yeah, and this one in particular, it's like described way more than like you can't really feel it. You know, like he's like, oh, I feel sick with anxiety.
It's like, all right. Yeah. Yeah, like I think there's like a bit of lack of weight in like quite a few instances. You know, like when he does something really well, it's kind of a bit like, oh, well, that was a fluke, you know? Or like there's just like a whole bunch of stuff like that. It's like, yeah, he's the chosen one, but why, you know? Or like, I don't know. There's kind of like a little bit of like a lack of substance in some of the kind of plot logic.
Yeah. It's not that like emotively written. I guess that's like, you know, is that part of her? She's like, no feelings. Don't talk about it.
Yeah. She's got no empathy.
Cold bitch.
Got no empathy for trans women.
Yeah. It's cute when he gives the twins all his money.
Yeah. Oi, that whole thing with the like leprechaun gold and shit too.
Yeah.
And
I
like,
remember that as well. That was one of the things that I remembered really well. And all the times you see the Weasley, like the twins having like whispered conversations, it's like, it's because they were cheated.
yeah, I thought they were doing kind of like semi-illegal stuff. But like, yeah, I remembered them confronting, what's the guy, Crump, about it. Is it Crump?
I don't think so.
What the fuck is it? It's like, oh no, that's Barry Crump. That's Crumpet? Pumpet? What's his name? It's Crouch and Slouch.
I can't remember what
Plump. Can you check?
I am. I'm trying to
I want it to be Crump now. Bagman. It's much more completely different than I thought. Anyway, that guy.
Yeah.
He's yeah, I imagine them. I remember them confronting him about it a lot more earlier on, and him being like, I don't know, them having a conversation about it or something. But then that never happened.
No, you don't even see them have a conversation. You just hear about it, don't you?
Yeah, I kind of liked him as a character, and then he kind of just like dropped off. He wasn't really in anything else ever again.
Yeah, just a one book guy.
One hit wonder.
Yeah. Yeah, this is obviously like the beginning of all the fucking bullshit of the fifth one. You know, like right at the end, and Crouch is like, nah, none of that happened.
Hmm?
You even listening to me?
What is it? None of it happened?
None of the Voldemort stuff happened. You know, like Harry's naming all the guys that were there, all the Death Eaters. And he's like, no, they were cleared. They work for me. They're fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but it's like, why would he lie?
I know. Well, he just thinks he's like obsessed with being famous. He's like, you're just Dumbledore's like top kid, and you keep coming up with these fanciful tales, and Dumbledore indulges you.
Yeah, I felt like that whole ending bit was quite effective, actually. Like when he's like in the hospital wing or whatever, and that whole conversation with that guy, the minister.
Yeah, Fudge.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like gets serious. Like Dumbledore starts really like rallying his shit because he knows like shit's gonna hit the fan.
It's all happening.
Bruh.
Is this the one? Where they all talk to the Dursleys and like threaten them?
Nah, I think that's the end of the fifth one.
After Sirius dies. Yeah. Well, that's cute, even though it's not in this one.
Yeah. Shout out to all the cute moments. Yeah.
Then it just kind of ends.
That's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
There's the reveal about all the Skeeter shit, which is fun.
Yeah. I remember that happening a bit earlier too, but it's like right at the end. It's on the train.
Yeah, it's like the last few pages. But yeah, I kind of thought that happened earlier too, but
what was it? I thought it was a bit more important.
A little bit more important than Voldemort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was Harry Potter 4. Nothing else really happened.
Yeah, I think that's it. I enjoyed going to the kitchens. That's one other thing.
Oh yeah. Fun. Also, like with all the spew stuff, and she's like, knitting all those hats and shit. Is that the fifth one?
Maybe I think that is in the fifth one.
Or but like all the house elves are like, fuck off. Like you're shaming us by like doing this shit.
When Harry sees Dobby and he's wearing all of the hats. Cute. But then he's like, yeah, none of the other house elves will clean Gryffindor Tower anymore. Yeah. So it's like actually what she's done has just made Dobby's life like way harder.
He gets lots of hats though.
So many hats.
Also in the fourth one, and he's like, Harry Potter, they've made a mistake at the store and given you 2 of the same socks.
So cute. He's such a sweet character.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all this stuff with Winky in this one as well, where she becomes like a drunk.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could actually get drunk on Butterbeer. And then I noticed that like they actually sometimes have alcohol and shit like throughout the books.
I know. Like they'll have like whiskey and shit. But
and,
I think
wine and shit.
Yeah, I think Butterbeer is like I think it's kind of more like real ginger beer or something, you know, where it's like maybe 4% or something like that.
Yeah, or like even less maybe.
Yeah.
That's what I thought too.
But then if you're a house elf and you're really little.
I've got a question. How
Yeah.
could you make a curse on a job, making it that no one could ever keep it for a year? Like a job isn't even a thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like how would you like establish the parameters of that?
Maybe it's like the curses on the title, you know?
Where?
Like those called, I don't know. That's never explained. But also that doesn't, like, there's nothing like that piece of magic in the world again.
No. It could be on The Office.
I was just thinking it could be on The Office.
But they would figure that out in like 40 years, I think. Like Dumbledore should be able to figure that out.
Yeah, surely you'd try a bunch of shit, like change The Office, stop calling it Defense Against the Dark Arts. Like,
undo the curse. I'm sure he said that thing that like magic always leaves traces, so he should be able to like find the location of the curse and uncurse it.
maybe it's that every year a teacher gets appointed and Voldemort, like, he could never figure out how to actually curse the job, so he just curses
Comes
the
back.
teacher every
Curses the person every year. And a similar question. There seems to be a real like weakness in the admin at Hogwarts. Like, firstly, who's doing it? There doesn't seem to be someone doing it, and like there doesn't seem like there would be any kind of like paperwork or like registry. Like it kind of seems like that like the teachers just show up
Yeah.
and like it's like a handshake that makes them like the official teacher. Do they get paid? How much do they get paid? Who
I don't
pays
know.
them?
But also, in the 7th one, and Bellatrix and Narcissa go to Snape's house, and it's described as like it has a real feeling like no one's ever here. And it's like, yeah, because he'd only be there like 2 months out of the year.
If they even leave Hogwarts.
Well, I'd assumed they didn't, because McGonagall says, "This is my home." Like, does she say it? Or does
I think she says it's Trelawney's home. Or someone says it, yeah.
But
Hagrid obviously lives there.
Yeah. That's different.
But he's got to look after the animals all year.
Everyone, like all the teachers, just lived there. Because if you're living somewhere 10 months out of the year, like, I would have just thought that would be your home. Or like in Hogsmeade, maybe.
Snape might just have that house because he inherited it, though.
But he obviously lives there when he's not at Hogwarts, because he's there then.
Yeah, he is there then. And Peter Pettigrew's there with him.
Yeah.
Hey, how weird is it that they like Death Eaters still call him Wormtail when that was like his nickname from James Potter and Sirius?
Yeah, that's weird, eh? It's also like, that's your high school nickname.
And really, it's not flattering at all. It's like a derogatory nickname, kind of.
Yeah, but I think they all think he's like a dumb bitch, you know?
Well, he is, kind of.
Yeah. They're not wrong.
They know he's a dumb bitch.
Yeah. I was thinking about what you said about you'd seen someone be like, can Dumbledore tell the future? What? And it's like, you said something about that.
Did I?
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm sure it was you. I don't really talk to anyone else. But it really does seem like he can, because this is the one where like Dumbledore says something about like Wormtail's gonna owe you.
We've gone really pixelated.
Yeah, you went choppy for a bit. I think we've gone choppy.
Yeah, you went all pixelated.
Oh, you're back.
Um,
Yeah. Why? Why is he gonna owe you?
Because when Sirius wanted to kill Pettigrew, Harry said, no, don't kill him. So he, like, owes him his life.
Yeah, I did say that. No, someone asks in the book. Yeah, in the book, someone says, like, Harry's like, oh, could he see the future? Because, like, then his hesitance meant that the hand killed him.
Yeah. But then
But-
also, like, all the stuff, you know, like, when Ron leaves them in the 7th one and then is brought back by the Deluminator, and it's like, it's kind of unreasonable to think that Dumbledore would know that would happen because he, like, doesn't know Ron, you know?
Well, he might know a bunch about Ron just from observing them and shit, and from hearing about it from Harry, and like, I mean, he must know stuff about Ron because like he knows, like, all the teachers like talk to him about the students and shit.
Yeah, I guess so.
But that did seem a bit like,
personal thing to know and be able to predict that someone would behave like that, you know?
well, I guess there's been like, well, there's that time that he wasn't talking to Harry for ages because he was jealous or whatever. And like, I guess there is a bit of like a weakness in his character in that sense,
Yeah.
which they kind of build up over the books as well. Like that he's a bit more like, I don't know, like a little bit less motivated and shit than like. the
Well,
other
maybe
two.
he just like, you know, all that shit happens with Ginny being possessed, and he's like, the Weasleys are just like weak when it comes to Horcruxes. Just take some precautions.
Yeah, but it does seem a bit far-fetched to seem that to say that he would like predict that he would leave and want to come back. But maybe there's a range of uses of that function that like
Yeah.
he might need. Like maybe
Even the
he'd get
stuff
lost or something.
When he's like in the afterlife explaining shit to Harry as well, though, he's like, I presumed that Hermione's would like slow you down, like try to rein you in. As well as like, wow, you really, he seems to know way more about them than would be, I don't know.
Well, he is a genius though, and like I think he could probably like piece a lot of shit together, and like I think the smarter you are, the more you pick up like vibes from people and shit. And he's a wizard, so like he'd probably be picking up more dank, deep vibes from people and their kind of like innate dispositions and shit, and their tendencies and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess after the 6th one, it's reasonable to assume that, you know, Ron and Hermione aren't like, you know, they're a bit like more tentative to think that this or that is going on
than Harry, who is like, this is what's happening.
But then he was
Oh,
right.
no.
Anyway,
I know,
like,
he's right all the time. He like, his intuition's like real in tune, and they're like, I think you're crazy.
I think there's a different explanation that is you're crazy.
Yeah, anyway, that's in the future.
That's in the future.
Cool.
Okay, cool.